Welcome back, listeners, to part two of Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, published in 2022, and its Netflix adaptation. Today, we are diving into the plot of the book. Last week, we talked about the cast, and now we are talking about the plot. And I'm very excited to dive into this. And I am Sarah Day.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Jordan.
And we will return after these messages. Okay, so the book, we spend a lot of time getting to know Tova, getting to know Cameron, and getting Marcellus's POV as a curmudgeon-y octopus throughout the story. And we learn that Tova has recently lost her husband, but she lost her son at the age of 18 about 30 years ago. And Cameron, we realize, is living with his aunt. He is kind of a deadbeat, trying to get his band to work, but his bandmates are having a baby, so they're breaking up the band. He gets this information from his aunt about a possible father. So he goes to so he finds himself in Sowell Bay trying to find this developer that he thinks is his father and trying to get all the child support. And then, of course, we are counting down the days to Marcellus's eventual death, as he knows his days are coming to an end because he is remarkably bright and knows how long they live for. And he knows how long he's been in captivity.
He's read the signs.
He's read the signs on the walls. Now, we get a lot of backstory in the book that is cut. Cameron's backstory is cut from the film, but the story really kicks off when Tova saves Marcellus. He has an affection for her now, and she has fallen off the ladder. They know each other because she works at the aquarium at nighttime. Now, she fell off of her ladder cleaning one night and sprained her ankle, and that is how Cameron comes into the story, because he is hired to fill in her shoes while she's gone. And I guess one key part of the book is that Cameron meets Ethan, and Ethan is kind of the one that gets him the camper and the job and kind of gets him on his feet in Sowell Bay. But all of that is like almost 50% of the book before we really get things moving and rolling here.
Yeah, the movie definitely accelerated that quite a bit. He gets the van from his mom's estate instead of getting it from some random guy after coming off the airplane and spending most of his money on it, and then it breaking down on Ethan's driveway. And it accelerated it, but it was a lot of the exposition that they fill in a little bit later, the stuff you need. But it was, a lot of it was there still, just rearranged, like Jordan said in the last episode.
Yeah, I mean, Aunt Jean doesn't exist in the movie. Her whole situation doesn't exist. Even his friends, there's a lot of talk about like him and his friend have been best friends since elementary school, and like him and the wife, like all three of them have been friends since they were kids, and then those two grew up and like got married, and now they're expecting a baby, and he's like still acting like a teenager, like trying to make it big with the band instead of like getting a job, and he can't hold down a job. He's like is late and doesn't do it well, and then he has like this victim mentality, blaming everything on the fact that he never had a dad instead of like, just saying like I am accountable for my own success in life and I'm going to just overcome the odds and like do well just because I can, all of that stuff just gone. I mean, his friends show up for one scene to tell them that they are ending the band career so that they can focus on their new baby that's coming, and that's literally it. But like as a viewer, you don't really care because you have no other connection to those people, versus like you said, Sarah Day, in the book there's like a whole half of the book, and since it's split between the 3 point of views and mostly Tova and Cameron, you have like a quarter of the book discussing that background and that relationship with them. And then last week, like I said too, with the threads, like one of the threads that is left ambiguous is whether or not Cameron's mom is dead or alive. In the book, there's talk of like somebody has seen her like 2 or 3 years ago, but not since then. Like his aunt Jean hasn't heard from her. Like nobody knows where she's at, if she's okay or not. Versus in the movie, they're like, nope, she dead. Here's her van. That's how we're gonna skip all this other stuff and just like simplify it and like squish them together. Um, and again, like we said, just being repetitive, like for the movie makes sense. You gotta get going quicker. You don't have, as many pages as you want to go through things. You have 2 hours to tell the story. So it makes sense to cut, but you always lose a little something when you cut it. And so that, like we talked about the acting, like the depth of the character gets lost a little bit.
So, one of the things that Marcellus first notices about these two is that I think before he even says that they're related, he's noticed that they both have, he says, a hole in their heart. So, we know that Tova, she's dealing with the death of her husband, her son, a long time ago, and she is selling her house. So that's kind of what she's dealing through, is like all of these feelings, and kind of like moving on and healing. And then we have Cameron, who, like you said, single mom. She is dead in the film, and he's just trying to find himself, really. I mean, he doesn't know his parents. She left when he was 9. I don't know if the film states that. But, they're both missing family. And Marcellus notices that too. And he's already wanting to help Tova because she saved him from the cords. And then he realizes that they are related. And again, the film doesn't mention that he knows that they are related, but they definitely imply it. So things kind of really get going when Cameron is trying to get a hold of Simon Brinks, and he's calling and he's calling and he's calling, and he finally meets with Simon, and he is informed that he's not really his father. He was just best friends with Cameron's mother. And in the book, they're meeting at a bar that he kind of created for Cameron's mother. His daughter is there. In the movie, Simon is like, there's no way I could be your dad because I'm gay. And she kind of covered for me. But that kind of kicks off our next set, because he gets the actual ring that has EELS, and he thinks it means eels. And so he's, really bummed out that he's basically back to square zero.
Yeah, I was kind of sad to not see that bar scene, and I mean, I didn't care how they wanted to change that character. That wasn't an important character, but it was a fun little, like, I built this kind of for your mom. She was my best friend, so I wanted to do something for her. That was kind of an important moment in my mind of, aw, he cared a lot about her. So it gave Cameron a reason to
Yeah.
say, okay, my mom wasn't the piece of crap that I've kind of grown to see her as.
Yeah, like humanizing her and saying like she had dreams and she had friends and she wasn't like, because Cameron only knows her as like a drug addict who abandoned him when he was 9, but
Hmm.
she wasn't always like that. Like something made her that way. And so Simon Brinks is able to show that other side of her, that, we had aspirations. We were going to do this together. She was my best friend. She was a good kid. Like, and then she got pregnant and she loved you and she was so excited to have you. And then, something in the book, again, it's left kind of ambiguous, but like something happened and sent her down this terrible spiral into drugs and addiction and all these things where, this is how your life ended up. And like, he's like, I'm so sorry that it ended, that this is where you're at. But like that, the version of your mother that I knew loved you. And so giving Cameron that opportunity to like reframe who his mother was and like see her in a different point of view, I think I agree with what was a really valuable thing that the book gave us that the movie took away. And there's so much other plot too that we're skipping over, like, Cameron Ethan taking him in and Cameron like living out of the camper on his driveway, and then like how they meet Avery, and Avery I don't think it's at this point in the story, it's later, but like the thread of Avery is she talks about saving a woman from committing suicide like at the pier. And so I thought that she may have, it's left ambiguous, we don't know who it was, but like I thought that that was Daphne, I thought that that was
For
Cameron's
sure.
Seems
mom,
like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's how the author wanted you to think. So it's like, so we know that again,
Well, and
relatively recently she was there and alive.
the key part of that story, which I am disappointed they cut from the film, is that it's like she witnessed the accident. The weather was bad and the
Yes.
boom swung around and hit Eric. And
Yes.
I don't know if either of the two of you have been on a sailboat or have been hit with a boom. I was on the sailing team in college, and let me tell you what, the boom really does hurt. Like, you could
Yeah.
really do a lot of damage with the boom. So it's the evidence that Eric didn't kill himself, that he
Yes.
really did. It was an accident. And
Yeah.
that's what Tova really needed to heal. And I don't think she gets that information. We do as the readers, but
Yeah.
I don't
It's
think
not for she pieces there's enough evidence sprinkled throughout that she's able to come to that conclusion the same way that we are as readers, where she knows it was bad weather that night. She is told by the character Adam, a friend from high school, but not like a good friend, so he was never interviewed by the police. But he says that like, oh yeah, there was a girl, and also they were gonna sneak beer because they're 18 and they want to sneak beer and party a little bit. And so she's like, oh my gosh, bad weather, alcohol, he was out on the boat with a girl, like that's enough of a combination for even an experienced sailor like my son, where all the wrong things happen at the same time and he gets hit and drowns because he's knocked unconscious and he falls off the boat. And then this girl, whoever the girl is, she can't save him. We find out later that it was Daphne, but like she's an 18-year-old girl, and so she's scared and traumatized and she doesn't know how to sail the boat and like all of that. And then that's the thing that turns this, yes, a teen mom who's probably scared and confused and unsure, but who had a loving boyfriend who was going to help her raise her kid, into the single mom who is now traumatized watching her boyfriend die right in front of her, leads her down the path of drugs and despair. So yeah, a lot of these threads like are so beautifully woven throughout the book, and you can pull this piece and pull that piece, and like that was Daphne that Avery saved, and she was there that night that Eric died, and she was the girl. Like all these things are so perfectly lined up in the book for you to piece together, and so many of those pieces get taken out in the film, and then like they try to still squish the story together and it doesn't fit quite as nicely. You still get where you need to
Agreed.
go by the end, but it's not as fluid, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There was a lot that uh, made up this story that we didn't get in the film, and so personally, I still like the book better. That was in this case one of the ones that I would have, if I had to choose one or the other, I would choose the book because there's just so much depth, so much interesting intrigue that you don't get when you're just watching the 2 hour condensement of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Avery's story was actually had a lot of depth to it that we missed out on, that you just went through. Her being a little bit older than him gave a little bit of a another angle to come from. The Ethan part of the story was always pretty sweet because he's just there, he wants to help people, so he's getting to do what he wants to do. And yeah, that definitely was good.
Speaking of Ethan, throughout the story, he is trying to woo Tova. And he actually finds out first that Cameron is Tova's grandson. And he's like, I've got to tell her. And when he's trying to tell her in the book, she's trying to clean up after their dinner, and she finds a rag, quote unquote rag, but it's actually the Grateful Dead t-shirt, and she ruins it by cleaning it. In the book, she accidentally spilt wine on it. I mean, in the film, she accidentally spills wine on it. And then she enlists the help of her friend's daughter to help her buy a new shirt on eBay. And she has to go on the freeway and try to get this shirt because shipping would take 4 to 6 weeks. And it's like, why? Okay, for me, they kept that in, but they changed it so much, but then
just
they cut
glossed
out
over
all
it,
of
yeah.
Avery's stuff. So it's like,
Yeah.
why would you keep the t-shirt in for really nothing and
Yeah.
then but cut out Avery's stuff?
Yeah.
So that was
Well,
really questionable to me.
and even the t-shirt, like they didn't even show all the effort she went through
Exactly,
to
that's what I'm
make it
saying.
right.
Yes.
Like she still magically gets a new t-shirt and hands it to him, and like the epilogue, like, you know, montage of how her and Cameron's lives are better now that they found each other. It doesn't show like, oh yeah, I went to Janice Kim's house and I borrowed her computer and she helped me, you know, I don't have an email, so I had to send it to Janice Kim's email, and then her again being brave and going on the freeway to get the shirt because she, you know, I have to make, there's a right way and a wrong way to do things and I have to make this right. Like, and she cares about Ethan, and so that's part of her, like, you know, accepting the fact that, hey, your husband died, you're allowed to move on, you're allowed to care for another man, not even necessarily romantically, but just like at all, you're allowed to care about another person to a greater depth, even though your husband has died, and that's okay. And like that part of her healing process, and then it just is like, nope, magically she has a new one of these rare shirts that's worth thousands of dollars, because they still make a point to say that it's worth thousands of dollars and very rare. And so magically she has it and can hand it to him at the end of it. I'm like, frustrating. They also, all the stuff with her selling her house and going to Charter Village, she has a brother who died,
Not mentioned at all.
completely
Yeah.
doesn't exist. Like I think maybe like one of the voicemails at the beginning, they talk about, you've been on this list since your brother, you know,
No,
was
they didn't even
here.
mention the brother. She's been on the wait list,
Her
right?
husband
Yeah,
put her on the list.
Oh, her
That's
husband,
right.
that's what it was.
Yes.
Before
I'm
Yes,
like,
he
he had
where's
cancer. He knew he was going to
justice
die.
for
Yeah.
Lars?
No, they
Justice for
completely
Lars, the
cut him.
brother.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Which is
and
just,
again,
you know, more death that she has to deal with. You know, it's
yes,
death, 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 and their whole estrangement.
And having to go
yes,
there and get his stuff and all that was a whole
yes.
subplot that actually had a lot of interesting detail to her story.
Right. Ethan is the one that took her there.
Yeah.
Yes, like it just shows their connection. And like, because like I love, like, I don't know, I guess I'm very despondent about the future, so any stories with old people being happy make me happy. So I'm like, you know, she's like, he has a crush on her, like they're 70 and he has a crush on her and she has a crush on him and they're all nervous and he trims his beard. I'm like, that's so sweet. And then, like, you know, the effort and the flirtation looks different at different stages of life. And so for him to, you know, I'll go with you on this journey for your brother, that's a big deal. That's intimacy. And then for her, you know, I will get on the freeway and drive to pick up this Grateful Dead shirt and spend $2,000 on it. That's intimacy. And like, just taking all the intimacy between those two characters out, I was like, come on, you guys, please help me. I need some more romance.
So should it have been a TV show?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. I really do.
Especially
I mean,
being
it was
on
fine
Netflix.
as a movie. Like like a Netflix movie, it was fine. But
Yeah.
for us to get what we want, like all the emotion, it definitely should have been a TV show. Even if it was 4 episodes, like an like a limited series, you know.
Mini series. Yeah. You could even stretch it to 6, I think, and can really get all the background of Cameron, and then like some flashbacks of him growing up, or like the day his mom left. Like, you could do all these things and really get in there. And then you could do line for line, you know, and Marcellus's sections were very much line for line. I will say that. Like, you could do his whole chapter line for line, and him watching and observing and like interacting with Tova and Cameron. And then you could
almost open and close an episode with his POV chapters.
Yes. We were robbed. I love this movie. I love this movie. It was a great movie. You're right. I love this movie. I'm going to be rewatching this movie. I think this is going to be one where it's like, when I'm feeling sad and I need to like let it out, I'll watch this movie. I'll pull this one up. Especially because it's always going to be attached to, you know, my dog in my brain now. But gosh darn it, we could have had a really great show, and it could have been a lot more accurate.
So, going back to Ethan. Okay, so we talked about what?
Said we lost the plot.
Yeah.
Well, they did too, so it's not our fault.
That's fair.
Okay, going back to Ethan and Cameron finding out that Simon is not his father, and he gets the eels ring. There is two things that Marcellus was like, these will definitely make her realize who Cameron is, and it was the license plate, because she finds out that
His
Danielle
driver's
Cashmore,
license.
yes, thank you,
Daphne.
the Daphne Cashmore is the mother from okay, we completely forgot this whole going away party because one of the nitwits is moving in with her daughter, and the couple is at the party, and the guy was the guy that was friends with him and mentions the girl. And then in the book we get there's a girl, and she's very harping on this new piece of information. And we get that a little bit in the film. But that's what leads her to the yearbooks.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, sorry, like it's been 30 years, and this is, again, there was not a lot of evidence because it was out on the ocean, so the police ruled it a suicide and wiped their hands and moved on, which, there's no evidence. What are they supposed to do? So for her to get this new piece of information is huge, is earth-shattering. And again, something taken out, this one genuinely I don't think makes a difference, but like she runs into the husband Adam on the beach prior.
Yes.
And he tells her that he was friends with Eric. We weren't really close friends. We had only really started hanging out that year, but like I did know him. She's like, oh, I didn't even know that they knew each other. That's so crazy. And then at the luncheon, his wife is like gabbing and like spoils the fact that Tova is selling her house. And then also, Adam spoils the fact that there was a girl. And then he says her name was Daphne. I don't remember her last name, but her name was Daphne. And then the whole thing with the yearbooks.
Isn't he not the one? He like spoils something, but he doesn't say it because she runs into the wife at the grocery store later, and she's the one that tells her the name, right?
You're right. Yes.
But in the movie, he meets her outside and tells her.
Yes, which again is fine because
that was fine. Yeah,
you skip that in between.
Yeah, you don't need that. Yeah.
Well, there's a whole subplot where Ethan finds the check on his wall from like back when this.
That's right. That's how he puts the names together.
And things like that. That was kind of like, it was a lot of threads that probably were unnecessary for a film. So I understand all that, but it was kind of interesting. Everybody coming from different angles and finding this info out.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, and we keep going back to Ethan, but like Ethan and Cameron's relationship too, like deeper. Gets like. Ethan is hiring for the grocery store, and Cameron's like, what about me? He's like, you have no experience, like it's a manager position. And so like when Cameron kind of throws his tantrum and leaves, like that's another piece of the tantrum is, yes, he just found out that Simon Brinks is not his father, and so he's back to square one, like we said. And Ethan doesn't have any confidence in which Ethan's valid. Let's start there. But Ethan, he again with he's still living in that like victim mentality that like, oh, poor me, like I can't, everybody's out to get me, which is not true. But he feels like Ethan's betrayed him. Like he's feeling a lot of betrayal and hurt and angst, and so he's like, I'm going back to California, and he dips out. And then he comes back.
And before, so yes. Okay, so we're kind of getting to the climax here. And he's running away, and Marcellus, there's the two pieces. He gets the driver's license because Terry, the owner of the aquarium, is like, yeah, you can stay on full-time as Tova's replacement. But I need your driver's license. Like, you never filled out this paperwork. And then in the book, in his mind, he's like, well, that's why I never went to college, because I never filled out the paperwork for the financial aid. And so again, it's just this whole root,
cycle of mentality.
Thank you. Cycle of him just not following through. Right. So he leaves he can't get the copier to work. So he's like, I'm just leaving the driver's license. So Marcellus, he grabs the license and throws it under the statue because he knows Topher will clean it. And then the whole ring thing happens, and he throws the ring with the initials EELS into the tank with the eels, which is Marcellus's enemies. And so he's like, okay, I got to get this license and I got to get this ring. And I can't remember what happens with the license. Where does that end up? But of course, he does get the ring to Tova.
She finds it and she discovers it and she's like, oh, Cameron Castmore, like your mom was Daphne. And so like she puts that piece of it together, that the Daphne that may have been friends with her son is his mother, but it's still for some reason is not really clicking that
Until she gets the
they
ring.
were dating and together, and like that Eric could have been the father. It's just that they were both seniors at the high school at the same time, and so they knew each other, but that's where it
Right.
ends for her.
Okay. And so as she's discovering all this and putting two and two together, it is Marcellus's final days. There's a new octopus coming in, a female, and that so in his attempt to get the ring and escape to the outside, she finds him and she realizes that he wants to go to the ocean. So she goes out to the pier, frees Marcellus, and then kind of sits and stays on the pier. And I believe this is when Avery comes and tells her that somebody once tried to jump and I saved them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a little
Yeah.
earlier, but that's when we find out this piece of information. So she's coming to all of these epiphanies at one time, that it was an accident and Cameron is her grandson.
Yeah, because Marcellus is the one who gives her the ring,
Mm-hmm.
and she puts together that, oh, this is Cameron's ring that he put in the tank. EELS. Oh my God, it's my son's ring. If Daphne had my son's ring, that means that they were dating, and she like makes all the connections that they're related. And then she gets like Cameron comes back, and then she gets to tell him all of that instead of him coming back with the ring. Or no, she still has it.
Yeah.
Either way. It was slightly different in the book, but
And it all
close
makes a
enough.
little more sense once you realize just how much pressure Eric probably was feeling when towards the end there too. And he's got his girlfriend's pregnant. He was trying to figure out how to tell his parents. He's
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out all this
Well, I
stuff.
wonder,
And
did
then
he even know she was pregnant?
I
I
think
don't even think
so,
she knew he was
because
pregnant.
they
Or she
talk
was
about
pregnant.
plans. I think is what they said in the book. At least they
Yeah.
were planning to be, to do all this, and he was excited about it. But
Mhm.
so I do think that she did know.
Yeah. And then the
That they
movie they
both knew.
show it. Yeah, in the movie they show us at the end like the list of baby names, and Cameron is
Yeah.
circled, and
Oh,
so
yes, that's
so
right. Oh,
he
speaking
knew.
of that, not really, but um they added something in the film. What was it? The fight that they were angry at each other. What, they added that in the film, or did I just
It
skip
was
over
there.
that in the book?
It was
It
there
was in
because
the
he
book.
did break that ceramic figure and had it in the under the floorboards in
I
the
do
book,
remember that, but I
and
don't
that was
remember
from
her
their
feeling
fight.
so
Yeah,
guilty about being
well, he
so
did.
angry at him the day she did. Okay,
Yeah, it was in the book.
I didn't get that from the book. Okay,
There's a haunting moment in the book where like Marcellus is talking about how he'd like seen the bones of her child
I
in the
know.
ocean. I was like,
Yes,
oh,
because the
that's
keys
yeah,
matched.
yeah, everything matched
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And so I was like, that's weird that they didn't show that in the film, which I was like, okay, that's fine.
I
But
don't know how they
it was
would.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they had all those ocean moments, but he did talk about how this is the same area where her son would have been, long gone now, but would have had
Mm-hmm.
his final moments and everything. But it was fine. But yeah, in the book that definitely gave me like, oh, that's chills right there. That
Yeah.
all these characters have so much connection, and
Mm-hmm.
even
Yeah.
Marcellus.
That was another one of those threads that this one particularly, like, if you leave it out, it didn't harm anything, but like it would have been nice to see or to be told somehow that Marcellus knew what happened to Eric. He was there that night. And like I think obviously he can't convey that to Tova because he's an octopus, but like even for us, the viewer, to know that like Eric had a friend or somebody who would later become his mom's friend there with him when he died, so he wasn't really like alone. Would have been a cool thing to have, but it's okay.
The ending with they in the book they sell the house because she's already got an offer on it. She's already cleaned her stuff out. It was while cleaning her stuff out that they find the box under the floorboards. I kind of liked that they moved on from that place and got a condo together that they can, they were able to be a little more accessible for her as an older person and be, still in Sowell Bay together. but in their own place instead of the old memories that they finally needed to let go of.
Yeah, I wish that would have been something that they continued with as well. Like, and again, like squishing the timeline as much as they did, there wasn't enough time in the film for her to have sold the house to the family from Texas and then packed everything up and then like been about to go to Charter Village, like, and then at the last second, because she has this discovery of family, like deciding not to go. Like, there's no way you could have made all that make sense, because I mean the movie shrinks something that happens over the course of months down to what feels like a week
Right.
ish,
Mhm.
and so like there's just wasn't enough time to make all that happen like authentically. um
And
but
her hosting the
yeah.
barbecue there and them living there together or whatever is sweet. It shows that
Hmm.
he cared enough to fix the, the railing for her, make sure she has safety in the house. And it
Yeah.
shows that connection there too, the same way. And they have the barbecue down on the little pier or little, ocean view area they have above the cliffside there or whatever. And it was a sweet moment and showed her reaching out and actually growing her community properly there. So I
Yeah.
don't bump up against it in the film. It was fine, but I did like that in the book they had that change of, or that had that moving on moment for both of them.
Yeah, you have the symbolism of letting go of the past and the
Hmm.
pain and the trauma and moving forward with, this new knowledge that you have, that there is family and there is, light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. Um, yeah, I agree with you. I think they're both good, but I prefer the symbolism from the book a little bit
Hmm.
more.
Any other final thoughts?
We've been jumping around a bit, but I think
Yes.
we've kind of covered most of the important parts to us, and I think we can definitely see that we all enjoyed this book a lot
Yeah.
and connected with it a lot, and so yeah, I mean, I don't think I have any other specific things I want to mention from the book, but I did love it, and I really, I didn't know much about this book before, other than the people said you should read it, you should read it. I'm like, well, what's it about? It's a weird title, I don't know. It's got sea creatures on it, and then when I picked it up, it was like, oh, that's why people were telling me that. It was really a great story.
Yeah.
And it was also popular around the same time as My Octopus Teacher.
Oh,
So I never knew like which octopus book is which.
yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I am excited in 10 years when they remake it into a show.
When Apple picks up the option.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, then, join us next week when we cover Margot's Got Money Problems.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see you next time.
Right, bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Book Watch. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of page-to-screen adaptations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your fellow book and movie lovers. If you'd prefer to watch along, you can check the show out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Instagram at Bookwatch Podcast, and you can follow me, Sarah Day, on Instagram at captain.mcdee. That's MCDEE. You can also join the conversation in the Bookwatch Lounge on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/bookwatchlounge. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join the Patreon at www.patreon.com/bookwatchpodcast. Tiers start at only $4 a month, and I'd love to have you over there. If you have a favorite adaptation you'd like to cover with me, I'd love for you to apply to be on the show with the contact form on our website at www.bookwatchpodcast.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and I'll see you next week.